Hi, Richard.
Hi, John. How are you doing today?
I'm recovering from Baltimore Comic Con. Hi, everybody. It's Bronze of Modern Gods. You got John and Richard here. How you feeling? Everything back to normal yet?
Yeah, I had some adventures with traveling, returning, but other than that, yeah,
We both did, I
yeah.
think. Did you have your luggage at least?
My luggage came with me, unlike yours.
Okay. Well, hey, in case you guys missed all the live streams, we had fraught travel there and back. But we're all home, got my clothes back, got my books. And I just want to, give a little shout out to a couple people from Baltimore. First of all, thank you for everyone that came up to the Wacom booth and said hi. It was amazing. We are very, very humbled.
Absolutely. It was a great reception we got there, and we met some awesome people in the course of those 3 days.
Great dealers, great booths. There is a walkthrough video on the channel. If you can take the vertigo, sorry about that. We learn every time we go to a show, Richard, don't we? About the
Yeah,
technical stuff.
yeah, we get better every time.
So we have a stabilizer for the camera for next time. So there's that. And speaking of learning new things, we learned that the Wi-Fi there really blows. So we have to get a hardwire internet connection next time, if such a thing exists. We did learn one thing and was successful, and that is our lighting. We want to give a special thanks to our good friend and listener, Mike Durst, for providing the professional, and I mean professional lighting that made Richard and I look so good.
I felt like I was on the news show. It was really, really great. He was excellent through the entire show, just accommodating and understanding. And the show would not have looked as good or have been as good without him. We stood out simply because of the lighting in the
Yeah.
entire entire show. So that was impressive.
So we have our lessons learned. We've got to work on the Wi-Fi next because when we want to live stream, we want you guys to be able to see it. I have been reposting some of the stuff in a little higher quality. If you want to go back this week and view those, they're up there again. Uh, we just heard so many great stories, Richard, about how comics are changing people's lives. I would recommend watching the Fantastic interview. That one looks and sounds good.
Yep.
And good stuff. And we have a lot of books to show off from Baltimore that we did not show on the live stream. So stay tuned for that. We also have underrated books of the week, the 25-year rule, and viewer mail. But first, our hot book of the week. Richard, you go ahead and take this one real quick because this is more up your alley.
Yeah, this is Spider-Gwen Annual #1, the 1 in 100 Ji Young Lee variant. This is one of his covers. He's done a number of Spider-Gwen covers over the years, especially store variant covers. One of my favorite covers is the one that he did for Frankie's Comics back in, I think it was 2019. He did a number of different variants, um, really, really attractive covers then. This cover, I I saw it when it came out, and my immediate reaction with Spider Gwen plus his work is to buy it. I really just did not feel this was his better work, and I actually passed on it.
For those of you on the podcast, it's a Virgin variant cover that features Gwen putting on her ballet slippers,
Mhm.
and it's just as quiet a moment as it sounds.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm so used to dynamic action in my covers that just something as simple and quiet as her putting shoes on just doesn't inspire me the way that some of her other covers. But her other covers were static too. So I mean it's not every artist hits a home run out of the park every single time. But this one is going for is popular, 180 to $200 for Raws, which I think is
It's not
amazing.
stopping people.
Yeah, it's not. That's almost, up to twice the ratio. And if it holds there, I noticed there's been a number of books that have gone for, double ratio, 1 in 100, 1 in 50s. I just don't know if they're going to hold out for that value long term. The Wonder Woman cover for the Gnort swimsuit edition, it's nice and it's been holding value, but is it going to hold value for a year? I mean, are we going to look back at this in 2024 and see that this is, a fraction of its value. Let us know what your opinions are of these modern variants, especially the ratio variants, and their ability to hold value.
Are we still chasing variant covers like this? It feels very 2021 to me.
Yeah, it does. It does. Marvel has gone overboard on the variant covers, as they've done for the last few years. But it just really feels contrived nowadays, the way they're making A covers and B covers, and then Virgin A covers, and then different trade dress B cover. It's this. They're just swapping around these different adjectives to produce different variants, and it really doesn't provide value. And again, I just, when there's so many covers for a series or a particular title, it dilutes the value, and it makes it difficult for any one cover to rise above the others.
Well, it also boosts the numbers. When you've got, I don't know if incentive covers are counted towards the order. I'd have to ask my retailer friends about that, but yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling this one at all, but we're old. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Hey, stuff can sell that I don't like. And again, he's a very popular artist, and people may be specking on him on the art, just like people spec on Art Adams variant or incentive covers, because they tend to hold value. Just look at Young Allies #6. It's only a 1 in 15 variant, the that
Mhm.
Firestar cover, and it's going for mad money at this point.
It just shows you how few people were ordering Young Allies, the book, you know?
Right.
I to each their own, I suppose. Speaking of to each their own, we have a show and tell. I've got some books that not many people want, which, worked in my favor, at Baltimore Comic Con. A lot of these are from Baltimore Comic Con,
Mhm.
that I did not show on the live stream, and then some are, a few that I got on the way, back home this week and this week as well. First one I did show, I just wanna show it again because I know the live stream was having issues. It's Love and Rockets #1,
Mhm.
the magazine, first print, 6.0, old slab. It is a 6.0. There's no change in this book, but the asking price was what tipped me over the line. The guy, Richard was there. The guy was asking $200 for it. And I said, "Will you do 150?" And he said, "Sure." I don't think I got my phone out fast enough to Venmo him the money. Not bad. It's got some corner stress here. It's got some corner stress here. And then there's a big vertical, non-color breaking bend here that I could crack this and press out a whole bunch of stuff that as I'm looking at it. I don't think it's worth it, Richard. What do you think?
No, I saw that book when you picked it up, and it's a solid 6. I don't know if it's worth trying to get a 6.5 out of it, given the fees that CGC has nowadays. And, I just don't think there's value in it.
And having to wait for it to come back because it's a magazine, and we
Yeah.
know you have a magazine there right now. So,
Finally came back.
oh,
Finally
what do
came
you
back.
what a segue.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that book then. I sent off a couple of books to be reholdered, not to be regraded, reholdered, although they reserve the right to regrade the book if they feel. I don't know what the criteria for their justification of, if they feel like it, apparently.
If they damage it while, opening it up or, inspecting the book, who knows?
Yeah, I'm assuming if the inner well shows damage, then they take an opportunity to reevaluate. This particular book I had, and I dropped it on my press. Had it in my hand, dropped it on my cast iron press, and it cracked the case.
Oh,
So
the case, okay.
yeah, it
I
cracked the
thought
case.
you meant the book when you were pressing the book,
Oh, no,
okay.
no, 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 no! I just had it over it, and I dropped it. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. This is a third print. But it's a 9.4. It's a high grade third print. You just showed a book with an all black cover, an indie book. These indie books are really, 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 really tough to get in high grade because they just did not see the same level of protection, let's say, as Marvel or DC books. Now, this one has a number of. I didn't bother trying to get it regraded because it's got a number of issues. There's a big issue. Well, you can't see it there. Big
Mm,
issue right here. You can see that white spot.
yeah. Yeah.
And there's some rubbing on the spine. So 9.4, I think, is more than fair for this book, and I have it back. This is probably going to go up for sale because I just at Baltimore I submitted my second print that I
Mm.
bought, and we'll see what that comes back. It's not going to be a 9.4, I can guarantee you that. But I'd rather have the second print than the third print, to be honest with
That's not the one you dropped on the press. You dropped it, and that's why you had to get it reholdered.
you. Yes.
Okay. It's like you didn't get that back and drop it on the press, did you?
No, 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 no. That's why I had it reholdered. And I did that like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And the whole issue with this is a magazine book. We were just talking about CGC and magazines, and they are handled separately than regular comics. And whoever's handling them doesn't have as large of a staff as the as
Right.
the regular comics, so it takes longer. It used to take 250 days, 280 days was not uncommon for a magazine. It's faster now, but it's still not as fast as regular comics.
My next book I saw this from the same dealer at Long Beach Comic Con. He was there as well. And I was looking at it and I was kicking the tires on it. And I took a look at it, took it out of the bag. I'm being good, people, being
Yes.
really good. And I'm glad I did because I found a little spot of what is probably color touch on it. The dealer's a really good dealer. He didn't notice it until I pointed it out. We both still were unsure if it was color touch or not. I opened it up and looked at the inside front cover, and there is bleed through, just a tiny little dot of black bleed through. But I'm going to show you. Richard and I ran into him at Baltimore, and he had the same book, and I said, he had it for 500, and I said, he had it set aside. He did not have it out again because he hadn't had a chance to pull it and reprice it. And I said, "Would you take 250 for it?" Because I'm thinking restored, half of what it's worth.
All
And
right.
he's like, "No, I can't do 250, but I'll do 300." Again, my phone came out with lightning fast speed. It is Astonishing Number 6. This is the final issue featuring Marvel Boy and Bill Everett inside. So now I have all of my Marvel Boys except Marvel Boy number 1. I still need a Marvel Boy number 1. But here's the thing, there's a little black dot right here
I
where my
see.
finger
Yeah.
is. You see that?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to have color touch there because the robe is purple, so why would somebody have black color touch there? But it does bleed through, so the dealer and I were kinda like, "Well, 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other, we're maybe it's color." Would they hammer it? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little scrapey
Mhm.
take it off because it's already got chips out. You see the chips out.
Now, even if you scrape it though, that bleed through is still gonna qualify it as restored, right?
Not if I scrape it all the way out,
Oh,
Richard.
okay. So you're gonna do a complete both.
I'm gonna do an excavation. So let's see how that goes. I'll keep you guys posted. What do you have next? Or
Yeah.
do you have more questions about my Marvel Boy?
No, that's great. I was just gonna describe the cover for the podcast.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This cover has nothing to do with what's inside this book, by the way.
It's a gentleman in a purple well, I'm making an assumption. It's someone in a purple robe, getting ready to attack a woman in a clear glass coffin.
And
Uh,
don't forget the guy in the purple robe has lobster claws for hands.
does have lobster claws, and there's more of them coming down the aisle. That's a very interesting cover, and it says, "My coffin is waiting" across the bottom. It's lovely.
Yeah, not quite sure what's going on. Some fever dream. I mean, I guess this is when Coca-Cola still had cocaine in it, and the artist was like slugging it.
Yes, it did have cocaine.
Yeah, delicious Coke.
My next book was actually a gift. This was given to me by Mike Durst, the gentleman who did our lighting, and it's the gift that just keeps on coming. I really appreciate him and all the effort that he put in. But he knows of my love for Usagi Yojimbo and Stan Sakai's work, so he got me this comic interviews with Usagi on the cover. Awesome book. I knew of this book. I just did not have it in my collection. So he brought this to the show and gave it to me, and I really appreciate it. And this is a permanent part of my collection.
Shout out to Mike again. This one, Richard and I were walking around the convention floor in Baltimore. By the way, thanks to Raphael for watching the booth for us and letting us shop as much as we did on his 40th birthday. It wasn't exactly the 40th birthday he imagined, but he's a trooper. Um, and we, was it Sunday? I think it was Sunday. Things were getting a little dire for dealers, I think, on Sunday because any number I threw out, Richard, I don't know about you, any number I threw out was almost instantly accepted. I
Mm.
mean, not even countered. Maybe I'm making great offers, but I wasn't even getting countered. Were you?
No, I mean, people were well, I take that back. People had their floor. They
Mhm.
definitely had their floor, but it was easy to determine that. You threw out a price, and then they countered with what their best price was gonna be, and which was, sometimes shockingly less than what they were asking for.
I saw this. First of all, I thought it was priced great in the first place. It is Police Trap number 6. This is one of those Simon and Kirby mainline books, but this is after mainline went under and they sold the inventory to Charlton. So you'll see the Charlton logo up there. They had 2 issues in the can when they went under. So Charlton published those last 2 issues. Tough book. This Police Trap, I would say, is a 6.0, 6.5, very
Mhm,
strong.
mhm.
It was priced for $55. I was going to buy it for 55, but then I threw out 45 and she took it immediately. And I took it immediately and it had a really gnarly spine roll, which I pressed out this week. You can see the beautiful result there.
Mhm. Yeah, that I
No
remember it with the spine roll. It's a great job.
No spine roll, no muss.
Mhm.
So, Police Trap number 6, great Kirby cover. Look, why would counterfeiters have two-way mirrors installed?
Especially when with a police officer standing there,
Yeah,
and a
it's like,
camera, that's pretty
we
bad criminals.
we trapped you because of your stupidity. What do you got?
Next I've got a couple books. I'm collecting the Zoot series, so I've got here Zoot number 13. This is 13. For those on a podcast, it's a Zoot. This is a Cayman cover with
Did you confirm that's a Cayman?
um, I'm
Let's
trying to
look right
remember.
now together, shall we? Zoot 13, you say?
Zoot 13, cover A. There are 2 covers for this, a 13A and a 13B.
The interior story is Matt Baker. The cover is unknown. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
So, hey, it's got Matt Baker inside.
Yeah, Scott Matt Baker stories. This cover is a just a Rula, who is the um, ruler of the jungle. She's sitting there with her coiffed black hair in a
Get
bikini.
it? She's the ruler.
Rula of the jungle, being attacked by a bunch of looks like leopards.
Deformed leopard.
Yeah, they definitely are stylistic. Anyway, this is one of my good girl covers. This book dates back to 1947, so you give a little bit of leeway for the art. The art was still being formulated as to what was constitutes a good cover. So anyway, this book is in lower grade. It's if you look at the bottom, there's a chunk out of the bottom of the cover, and there is some spine splitting as well. But I only paid 75. Actually, paid it says 75 when I paid less than that. I think I paid closer to 50 for this
Yeah,
book. Um, and it's great. I'm a firm believer in get a book at a low grade, and then you can always upgrade it to higher grades. Yes, so sometimes the lower grade satiates that urge that you have to get a book. Period. And I'd much rather pay $50. And a lot of these Zoots are starting to go up in value. They're approaching $300-400 at these dealers, and now's the time to buy them.
for sure. You got a couple of them, right? Do you have another one, or is that the only
Actually, I
one?
do. I have a number 15 as well. This one's marked 125. This one's in better condition.
That's the one where she's bigger than the gorilla that she's fighting on the cover.
Yeah, she's fighting a gorilla. She's got a dagger, and she's about to plunge it into this gorilla that she's either being very amorous with, or she's attacking.
Hey.
Yeah, hard to tell. Uh,
Cue Careless Whisper saxophone here.
So this is in better condition. I would say this is probably a 2.5, and I paid probably around $100 for it. It says on 125, but again, I paid less. The dealers were willing to deal. There's not a lot of these books out there, so if you're interested in collecting good art from the Golden Age, and you like people like Matt Baker, um, these books are the best route to go right now. Some of his more expensive stuff like Phantom Lady is kind of out of reach for most people.
Yeah, definitely. Hold that up again, that last one. Hold it up to the camera.
Mhm.
Are you brave enough to fix that spine roll?
If someone were to make a video to show me how,
My homework. I know, guys. I know. I keep promising you a video. I gotta get to it. I
yeah.
swear. And what's funny is I fixed spine rolls on 3 books this week, and, I could have done the video then, but,
Mhm.
we were tired. It was post Baltimore. This next one, Richard and I saw on the floor. My eye went right to it. I was super excited. In fact, it was the same dealer, the same woman that had the police trap number 6. And I saw this, took it off the wall, took it out of the bag, looked at it up and down. I was so tempted. It was $750. I couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger. I get home. The next morning, Monday morning, I get an alert from eBay that it's up for sale for 250. $250. I take that back. 275. I think they asked. 275 for it. Buy it now. I looked at it. I hesitated. There were several pictures. There were like 13, 14 pictures. Front cover, back cover, corners, centerfold. It can't be. It's got to be a photocopy. It's got to be a fake. There's something going on. You know what? eBay protection. I love you. I'm going to take a chance. Buy it now. Biting my fingernails. It arrived 2 days later.
2 days. Wow.
Yellow Claw number 3, the last one I needed.
That looks really good.
It looks better than the one we saw in Baltimore.
Wow.
Uh, and the one in Baltimore I thought was fairly priced at 750. This one ended up with tax costing me like $310 with tax and shipping. I am grading this at a solid 6.5, maybe outside 7.0.
Wow.
It's gorgeous. It is the book that was in the pictures. There's no fooling. There's so few that sell, so it's probably tough for someone that doesn't know any better to find a comp. The seller mostly sells coins, so I think they're very unfamiliar with comics. I don't know. Did I rip them off? I don't.
He
That's
asked the price,
debatable.
and you found that price fair and bought it.
Yeah,
And
the only issue is that top of the cover there, the
mhm.
corner, and you've got some production issues here where the pages were too big. But it did have a bit of a gnarly spine roll. I fixed that, so there she is, looking good. So guess what? Yellow Claw complete at long last. Fireworks right now. The
Yeah.
journey. I mean, how long? Yellow Claw number 1 through 4. The entire uh length of this podcast
Yeah.
existed.
Congratulations. Yeah. You've had multiples of certain issues and none of others. So it's been a
I
journey.
I bought 2 number 4s, if you guys remember, because I thought I needed a number 4 and I actually needed a number 3. Done. Um, since April 2020.
All right. So what do you hunt next? Venus?
Oh, there's a whole oh, yeah, yeah, those deep pockets. I would like to do Venus, but no. Yay me. What do you have? What's next?
Next, I have another reholder. This book I bought cheaply because it had a crack case. Transformers number 1. Um,
Ooh,
I bought this book for like $500-600. I can't remember because it had a case that had a crack in it, um, and that devalues the book. So I bought it and then and sent it off just recently now to get it reholdered, and now it's in a pretty new slab. And I'm given a lot of books, I will buy books with crack cases. My Ultimate Fallout 4, the Djurjevic variant that I bought, I got it for $800 because it had a crack case. It's signed by Bendis. Sent it off, had it reholdered. You know,
You're not.
you can't.
Look at the back cover of that, the top back cover. Can you see it on your? Just take a look at yourself.
Mhm.
Do you see how it's jagged? Where the blades were dull? Does it have a jagged cut?
No, this cut is nice and clean.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've got a really good one because that book is notorious. There's a production issue where
Mhm.
the blades got dull somewhere through during the run. So you can get a 9/8 of that book with that jagged back cover. So the fact that you've got a nice clean one is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. This is a good book. Again, I sent it off to get reholdered. I'm always nervous because you send
Mhm.
9/8 off with a potential being regraded. That's always scary. But
We should give since we're talking CGC, we should give them some props too. We dropped books off at Baltimore on Friday of last week. Mine were received and scheduled for grading Friday, yeah, of this week.
yep, both of mine showed up for scheduled for grading as well. We'll see.
Five
Like the magazine, we'll see how long it takes for magazines to go through the cycle now.
5 business days, not too shabby. Someone, I think it was Lee Niren, who asked us in the comments why we do drop-offs instead of mailing them. That's why. You save on postage, and
Mhm.
for I can't prove it, but every time I do a drop-off, my books get received immediately as opposed to when I send them in, they end up sitting on a shelf
Well, look at
for
Dave. Look at our friend David, who came all the way up from Australia to submit his books.
yeah.
Of course, he had some very high value books, and to me, it makes sense if you have high value books, turn them in directly to CGC as opposed to trusting the post office. It's
Yeah.
one less potential link in the chain that can fail.
I think Lee is worried that they would get damaged, from the convention to
Mhm.
Sarasota. Lee, quite the opposite. I think they take extra care in extra packaging as opposed to trusting it with the postal service. I would rather do that. So this has been the week of John back on eBay grabbing deals for long wanted books. This book is not really for me. It's for Raphael, but I've been looking for this book forever for him, and it's come up here and there and sold for just ridiculous amounts that I refuse to pay. This is another one that came in my eBay alerts, and the opening bid was super low for
Mhm.
the condition. So I waited. Nobody else was bidding on it. I just watched it. 30 seconds before the auction ended, I put in a stalking bid of $5 above the opening bid,
Uh,
$5.83. And I got it. This is Mangazine number 21.
nice.
This is the first US appearance of Sailor Moon, and it was when the show first premiered in the 90s. It's got about half of this issue are character profiles of all the Sailor Moon universe, and it looks gorgeous, right?
Mhm.
It's got a tape pull
Oh,
right here.
no.
Which is why, the
They called
seller
it
was
out.
very honest, and that's why they had priced it at $249.95.
Mhm.
That's what I got it for, pre-tax and shipping, and, I'm we're happy with it, I think after a press, it'll be like a 9.2 structurally.
Mhm.
I don't think CGC is gonna give it more than a 7.5 with the tape pull, but if we get a 7.5, we're happy with it for 250.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's a question. Is Rafa gonna read it before you get it pressed and slab?
Already did. He already flew through it, and he took pictures of the pages because he doesn't want to read it.
That's
It's
awesome.
to read it on his phone.
That's great.
So, this is it. Mangazine, we've been looking for this another one we've been looking for years and finally got it.
Awesome.
This is the week, man.
Congrats,
Things are falling from the sky.
it's been kind of quiet on this side of the pond. I
Yeah.
just have not been purchasing a lot. I do have some books in transit, so hopefully next week we'll see some more. Next one is a book that you hit me up to. This is Vicky number one. This is Atlas Comics. It's a let's call it an homage um, to Archie comics. It's the same art
Why
style.
do you say that?
Oh boy, that's a good question because there's a redheaded boy and a brunette and a blonde on the cover.
It looks nothing like Archie.
But you were telling me this is a one of the toughest books in the Atlas comic uh, you know publication to get.
That is the toughest Atlas comic book. Who's our Australian friend? Not David, someone else in Australia. Oh, I'm blanking on your name. Please forgive me. He did point out there's an Atlas magazine called Gothic Romances, which is even tougher, but I'm not counting magazines. That's the toughest Atlas comic.
Mhm.
Vicky
Yeah,
1 through 4.
you know me. I'm a good girl art fan, and Girl in the Bikini on the cover is great. And the fact that it has that kind of tie into Archie, I couldn't pass up. So
Yeah.
it's marked for $40. I got it for half that. So
Wow.
yeah, it was
Was it a half off booth, or did you say I'll give you 20? Oh, okay.
half off booth. So
Nice. Lots of artists there. We'll hit that in a few minutes in viewer mail. One of my favorite artists of all time was there, Kevin McGuire. I've never been into a show where Kevin
no,
McGuire,
okay.
and I got a commission from Kevin McGuire. Uh, I said I wanted a Hercules bust, and he said, "Okay." What? And his Kevin McGuire is known for his facial expressions. He's very good at facial expressions. So he had a little sheet, and it had your name, character name you wanted, expression that you wanted, and he would write it down. And I told him, "Oh, make him drunk and goofy like Hercules. You know, he's Hercules. So here is drunk, goofy Hercules by Kevin McGuire
That's
to
awesome.
add to the Hercules wall. He does look drunk. He does look goofy, and he looks very realistic. So there you go, my Kevin McGuire original art.
That looks awesome. The last book I have is actually a book that the actual publisher came up to us. This is Eugene Alien Warrior. This is a book that's coming up on Indiegogo
Hmm.
um, for a it's independent print run, and it's I the the publisher, the person who's putting up an Indiegogo, he's got a bunch of Brazilian artists, and he has another group of writers. So it's it's an interesting story, and if you have an opportunity, stop by Indiegogo, look up Eugene Alien Warrior, and check it out. I'd love to support our independent publishers because I think they are the way of freedom from the the bondage that we are with DC and Marvel in terms of just overall content. I mean, both those publishers are locked into a specific kind of content. So, the more independent publishers we have, the better. It's also a black-owned company, which is something I'm sensitive to. So, yeah, check out Eugene Alien Warrior on Instagogo, and if you like it, support it.
I cannot support that book, Richard,
Why
for the
not?
simple reason is he did not give me a copy.
Well, I'm sure if you reach out, he will.
How dare you? No, of course. So we go to Indiegogo and search for Eugene Alien Warrior. Last book for show and tell. I got I want to say from Buzzard Brothers. And they know me, they know the show, they know you, they know what we like. Enough said.
For those who are listening on the podcast, it is a feature comics with Doll Man tied up in in a glass pitcher that is
He's tied to a brick.
tied to a brick and it's slowly filling with water. That poor man gets tortured in so many different ways.
I have to go through here this book. I flipped through it while I before I pressed it and cleaned it. By the way, it's Feature Comics number 84. Another one that's been on my eBay alerts list for a couple of years, and I've never physically seen a copy on come up on eBay, except there's a cover that somebody is trying to sell a cover for
Yeah.
$20. I don't want just the cover. So I'm glad I got it. Thank you, Buzzard Brothers, for thinking of me and saying, "Hey, here's a Dollman Bondage cover for you, John." It's one of the ones I needed. And inside, there are so many panels where he's bending over. He's posed provocatively. I swear, you guys, follow us on Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods. I will go through and post a bunch of these this week, so you don't think I'm messing with you. They knew exactly who their audience was for this book in 1946.
That's awesome.
So there you go. Speaking of Baltimore and your questions and comments about our trip, it's time for viewer mail.
You've got mail.
First one comes from our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Chris Langley, who writes, "Hey, love getting to meet both of you. at Baltimore Comic Con this past weekend. John, I hope you enjoy the Captain America print. I do. Thank you very much for that. Living on the East Coast, Baltimore is the biggest convention I attend each year, but would love to one day make it to San Diego. In your opinion, how do Baltimore and San Diego compare in regards to the comic creator guests in attendance? Please keep putting out the great content. Love the show, Chris. Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you. Thank you, Chris.
Richard, you've been to both. What do you think?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, the conventions have a different focus, I believe.
Mhm.
San Diego is more pop culture, media, so you get more movies, you get TV shows, and that tends to be a bigger part of the focus. Now, last this year that we've been in, the strike kind of put a kibosh on a lot of that. So I feel this year was closer to what we see in Baltimore, which is more comic books focused.
Chris, I'll tell you my honest opinion going to San Diego for the last 30 plus years, and this being my first time in Baltimore, I had more FaceTime and more conversations and better luck getting commissions at Baltimore than I ever have in San Diego.
With artists, yeah.
If you're looking for artists, I would stick with Baltimore. There's no real reason for you to go to San Diego if that's what you're looking for. San Diego is, I always tell people, San Diego is like Las Vegas. You got to go at least once in your life and experience it, but you don't have to go back if you're not feeling it.
Not only that, but if you're looking to meet these artists and get commissions from, the lines are going to be a lot shorter at Baltimore than they're going to be at San Diego. So that's your focus. Absolutely, show up early on for Baltimore. Get in line one morning, and you'll still wait most likely, but it's going to be a fraction of the time you would wait in San Diego.
Especially if you're into Bronze Age, because I mean, they were in Copper Age. It was like Alex Saviuk and Joe Rubenstein and
Mhm.
Bob McLeod, and just it was people from our time. Whereas San Diego's the flavor of the week with a few big booths like Alex Ross and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's our opinion. There you go.
Yep. Okay, my first piece of viewer mail is from Second Best Bob 28. This is from a YouTube comment. What amazing story! I had heard about it, but it's great to hear it from the actual family. He was talking about the Fantastic collection
Mm.
and becoming Superman, being Superman. What's the name of the
Selling Superman.
selling Superman? Sorry, selling Superman. Um, I do, however, have an unreasonable dislike for the collection name. I mean, is it cool slang for fantastic? I didn't get that. Was one of the questions that I had for him. Why that particular name? Do you happen to know, John?
I don't, but it doesn't bug me. I mean, he probably couldn't. Maybe there was some copyright trademark reason why you can't say the Fantastic Collection. Maybe somebody else had that, or there might be a story behind it. We'll have to ask Darren uh, about that and let you guys know. If you haven't seen that, that's actually one of the videos we reposted in
Mhm.
higher quality this past week. Just go to our channel and look for the video with Darren in the Fantastic Collection. Nice guy. He's gonna look for a couple books from me, Richard.
No, he's a great guy, and told a very human story about his relationship with his father and how the collection revolved or was a part of that. So again, I always love to hear stories that humanize comic book collectors, as opposed to this stereotypical one view that some people have. So this
Mhm.
definitely did, and I wish him luck in managing the collection because it's more than just selling it. He is actually adding to it at the same time too. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a lifelong travel journey for him.
If you look on his Instagram this week, Fantast collection on Instagram, he won some books in the Heritage auction this week, and one of them was a Peanuts number one, 4.5. Man after my own heart.
Yep.
I have a 5.0, Darren. Haha. All right. My next piece of viewer mail is from our email at bronzeandmoderngods at gmail.com from a great name, Dr. Boomtube. Hey, John and Richard, thanks so much for the free entertainment.
Thank
First
you.
one's free, kid. I have a couple of questions, comments. John, you may remember that I bought some books from you recently, and in our IGDMs, I mentioned I'd love if you and Richard would give your thoughts on the potential of the quote last newsstands quote to explode in time. Would love for your honest thoughts. As I understand it, the last Marvel newsstands were 2013 with DC in 2018. High grade copies of big keys like Ultimate Fallout 4 obviously command a lot of attention, but by all accounts, those keys were at least some of the more widely known newsstand variants. Will they continue to go up in value? Will rare, impossible to find, and good grade random books like Thunderbolts number 4 go up? The possibilities loom endlessly in my mind, John and Richard. The last newsstands, he says. Dr. Boomtube. I think newsstands are going to be like Mark's Jewelers variants or 35-cent variants or pence variants. I think there will be a subset, a core of people, a sliver of the general population that will desire these things and want them, and they're so OCD that, I don't know, I can't think of an example offhand, like, some goofball that loves Ultimate Fallout 4 and must have every variant made. Anybody know anybody like that?
Oh, not,
Let
not a,
us know in the comments. Um, so there's always going to be demand. You even mentioned Ultimate Fallout 4. I think you're onto something. I don't want to hype them up because I have no interest in those newsstands, but I do love the thrill of the hunt and to find, you know, an ASM whatever issue from 2013 that's a newsstand that was only at Barnes and Noble and a few other outlets at that point. That is kind of cool to me and interesting. Do I hunt them out specifically, and do I think a huge number of people will? I don't think so, but I think they'll have a bump.
I love your characterization of it being like Mark Jewelers,
Mhm.
and because I totally agree. It is not a different book. People like ASM 300, first Venom. The newsstand version of that book goes for almost twice what the direct version goes. It's the same book.
Yep.
It has the same indicia, has the same internals. The only thing that's different is that barcode on the cover versus the Spider-Man face.
It survived on a spinner rack in Lawson's Dairy Mart.
Right. It is substantively not a different comic. It just has that variance in it, just like the Pence books has small variance in the cover, and the Mark Jewelers has that insert. So, uh, long term, I do see it being just appealing to the niche for most of the books. There are going to be some exceptions. I think ASM 300, because of the momentum behind the values of those newsstands, are going to continue to hold value. They just, the Ultimate Fallout 4s, all the big famous books are going to have a substantial difference between newsstand and direct. But that's just because of historic values. But for the most part, I think newsstands are just another variant, and I don't see there being a huge premium over them because they just happen to be on a spinner rack. Now, they may be difficult to get on higher grades because of the fact that they weren't protected, but that doesn't mean that I think they are standouts above and beyond just a normal direct.
Unless it's a key.
Yeah, the keys always have their own. The market makes its own rules. The
Yeah.
market decided Hulk 181 is the first appearance of the Hulk. Sorry, of Wolverine. So yeah, the market makes its own rules for keys. So whatever it happens to be, you're going to pay what the market deems as being what the value is. And I think we're going to see uh, some difficulty in normalizing the price of those high value keys.
All right. What's your next piece of viewer mail?
My next piece of viewer mail is from friend of the show, Matter136, and he made those awesome Key and Grails books that we showed off a couple of months ago. And I just pulled this comment up because I had missed it and didn't get a chance to post it. Thanks for the shout out on my Keys and Grails books. I hope you enjoy them. And yes, I definitely self published those. Cheers. Love you guys. Thank you so much. This is Rat316 is I think his other handle.
Love
Uh,
you more.
these the books are amazing. He produced one that has a bunch of ads in it, and one of the ads is Bronze and Modern Gods, and we
Mhm.
posted that on Instagram a couple of months ago. But I appreciate it. He sent us books. He sent us several books, and he sent me a really cool Doom corner box, and just really been just supportive. And I appreciate him thinking of us, and just including us in his journey. So thanks again.
Thank you. My last piece of your mail is from Zach Brobst. here on YouTube. I swear I covered the whole floor at Baltimore twice. Only found one vendor selling Love and Rockets, but sadly no issue 24s. Sad to report, I also missed the Wacom booth too. How could you have missed that booth, Zach?
You can see us from space.
It was radioactive. It was glowing so much.
Uh,
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of Love and Rockets except for that issue one slab at that one dealer. I did see a lot of magazine boxes though. I saw a strong number of retailers that brought magazine boxes. I didn't paw through them. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I should have grabbed all those 24 before you, Zach. Um, but I'm a bummer. Keep looking for them. They're out there. You might get lucky and find them for $4.99 at a show,
yeah, you
like
never.
some people. And what's your last piece of your mail?
My last piece is from Jorge Martinez, KZ5EZ.
Sure.
I really recently sent in a modern book to get pressed and graded for Signature Series. This is a CGC. For the life of me, I cannot get a 9.8 from CGC to save my life.
Hmm.
I see people getting 9.8s for bad books, and my books, to the naked eye, you cannot find one blemish. What really gets my goats is no grader notes, so I do not know why I got a 9.6. That is really, really frustrating when you send in a book that you look at, and I've done this multiple times. You look at and it is flawless. There's nothing. You've pressed it and it is a flat sheet, every molecule aligned on that top. There are no other flaws in the book. You send it in confidence you're going to get a 9.8. You're fantasizing about getting a 9.9 because it's just that good of a book. And then you get it back and it comes back a 9.6. And because the higher grades don't get grader notes, you have absolutely no idea why it got a 9.6 or what brought it down in the grader's opinion to a 9.6 from a 9.8. It is really, really frustrating. But we have to realize that the grading of books is a total, I shouldn't say total, it is a human process. It's managed by humans. And you get, supposedly by CGC, 3 different people examining your books, and the consensus grade is what you get. So if not everyone agreed, then you're going to get a lower grade. So I don't know. I don't have any magic sauce that I could tell you to sprinkle on your books before you send them in to get a 9.8. There is no way you can get a specific grader. It really, 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 really is just up to the opinion of the graders as they look at your book. And they're human beings and they have off days, and that's possibly a thing to it. All I could say is, I mean, if it's a book that really, really matters, the difference between a 9.6 and a 9.8, let's say an ASM 301, which the Spider-Man in his original costume after Venom. In 9.8, it's a valuable book. In any other grade, it's not. So if you got a 9.6 in that book, you may want to contemplate sending it back in again. Take a look at it, maybe press it again if you think it needs it. If not, turn it around and send it in again, and potentially you'll get a different set of graders, and you might get a 9.8. But for the most part, if you get a 9.6, it means either A, you've missed something, and good luck finding it because they're not going to call it out, or B, the graders for some reason feel that it does not meet the standard of other 9.8s that they've graded, and you're kind of out of luck there. So yeah, I don't have any magic bullet. What about you, John? Do you have any suggestions?
Jorge, I, for one, welcome our AI grader overlords.
Yeah, that's coming. That's
That's
definitely
coming.
coming.
Jorge, the only thought I have, and it's tough love. I'm not picking on you. I'm not saying you're not doing this. I just have to say it. How harshly are you grading your books yourself before you send them in? Are you tilting them in the light? Do you have a strong light so you can see any finger bends, anything that might need to be pressed out? I am concerned that you say you sent it in to get pressed and graded. So you're trusting them to press your book. There's that. Um, So just be real harsh on yourself, Jorge, before you send it in. If you the reason why I'm saying this because I agree with you. Sometimes you just can't help it. It comes back a 9.4. Sometimes you're like, what the hell? Um, what the thing that stood out on your comment, Jorge, that makes me say this is you say you cannot for the life of you get a 9.8. So it sounds like this is a consistent issue for you. Be brutal, dude. I mean, you gotta look for every flaw, thumbprint, a scraped corner, a color rub by the back staple. Any of those are gonna get you a 9.6. Try pre-screening too. If you're sick of wasting money, pay the five. Is it seven now? Maybe it's $7 for a pre-screen. And if it's not a 9.8, you don't waste the money and you can try again. So good luck to you, Jorge. Just be brutal.
Yeah, they pulled the limit to pre-screen, so you can send in. It used to be 25 books, but I don't think you need to do that anymore. One trick that I found: take your cell phone, turn the flashlight on, and turn the camera on, and look at your book through the lens of, from the camera. It kind of separates you. Your eye normally is glossing over things because you're seeing it the way you normally see it. But if you're looking through a camera lens, you're kind of removed from it, and I think you remove yourself far enough that those flaws or any issues may show up. And this is a trick that I use just to go over books, and I catch myself finding things like fingerprints.
Yeah.
Uh, because now I'm not looking at the book directly, but I'm looking through it, this third party, and those kind of flaws become more evident.
Yeah, Jorge, it just comes with time. I mean, when I started slamming books, I had books I thought were slam dunks, and they came back 7.5s. And I'm like, what do they do to my book? And then I went and looked, and I'm like, oh yeah, I missed that.
Mhm.
So good luck to you. Richard, what did we do before we had cell phones with lights to inspect our books? Like say way back 25 years ago. It's 25 year old. Oh, C plus, B
Yeah,
minus.
C plus maybe. Are you really examining closely there, John? You're great.
My segues.
You're great on your segues.
Oh yes, yes. Hey, today, this one is super interesting to me. It is Spider Girl #1. It started off as a one-shot alternate timeline story in What If, and sold well enough that it spun off to its own book. It's the first
Mhm.
issue of the long-running series featuring Mayday Parker, I have the son, the daughter of Peter and Mary Jane Parker in an alternate timeline. This series ran for 100 issues before being rebooted, and then it ran another 30 issues starting in 2006. This was the series that would not die no matter what. Bill Jemas, the publisher at the time, president of Marvel, Joe Quesada, they hated this book, but kept selling just enough to stave off cancellation. It was continually slated for cancellation all throughout its run, only to get several last minute reprieves to keep it alive. And one of the things people hated about this book, Richard, which sounds so funny to say in 2023, it takes place in an alternate reality, an alternate universe with a different Spider Man. Who would ever want to read that? That's stupid.
Wow.
It didn't count, air quotes. And here we are. We've got Spider Verse all over the place and 8,000 spider variants. And, Spider Girl was the first. Uh, I don't think it gets respect for being the first. I don't think Tom DeFalco gets respect for, and Ron Friends for coming up with an alternate spider character that, caught on
Mhm.
early. Let's give Spider Girl some love, people. The 90-day GPA average for a CGC 9.8 is a whopping $100. That's down from $162 during the great comic boom of 2022. Richard, did you ever read Spider Girl?
No, I did read the What If book. I think the What
Mhm.
If book has a higher value than this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of, Spider Girl. That's the book you focus on in terms of collecting. I never actually read the ongoing series.
It was good. It started off with Tom DeFalco and Patrick Olaf, and then when Ron Friends comes on, that's when it takes off. And, it was at one point, it was the only spider related book I was reading.
Mm. Wow.
Couldn't take the regular Spider-Man title. So Spider Girl's where I got my fix. Speaking of fix and musicians and drugs, underrated books of the week. Richard, take it away.
Yeah, were you? Do you know this book, John?
I am aware of it because this is one of the books that speaks to my DNA, and yet I've never bought it, never read it. People have tried to force this book on me at
Mm.
comic shops, uh, and I don't know if I have a visceral reaction against it, but tell people what it is.
It's Phonogram #1. This is Image Comics back in 2006. It's a comic book series created by writer Kieran Gillen and artist Jamie McKelvey. Ran 6 issues. There's 3 different volumes of this, and this is a book written for John. It's all about this concept of phonomancers, who are magicians that derive their power from music. Um, Pretty much British pop. The series delves into the cultural and magical significance of music, particularly in context of Britpop and rock history. So there's a lot of mentions of different bands from the era, the Buzzcocks. A lot of '80s bands, a lot of '80s music. As a matter of fact, at the back of each issue, they include all the different bands and songs that were mentioned in the story, which is pretty cool because there's I was going through and pulling things out and things that I didn't know. So that was really, really, really interesting. I will say the story is very, very dense in
Mm.
that you have to pick up a lot of context from the conversation as you're reading it. It doesn't hold your hand to tell you what's going on, which is good and bad. It's good because the story moves. It's there's no filler, but at the same time, you're reading and almost taking notes so that you can understand what things are going on. Um, if you're not a big music person, it's still a series to read because the stories it gets more interesting as far I'm up to issue #3 in the series at this point. Um, but it definitely is something that requires some commitment to. You can't just pick it up and toss it down. Is what I'm saying. The GP on this book, 9.8 sold in 2019 for $32. So not a really high value book. Although they've reprinted this book. If you want to buy the reprints, that might be a good thing. Raw's 10-20 bucks, so really doesn't matter if you want the reprints or not. You can get the originals for a reasonable price. But I think it's an interesting concept using music as a source of magic and it's not the cast fireballs kind of magic. It's more magic with a K. But so far it's been an interesting story, and I came across it and I was reading it and I thought, John must know something about this.
But the covers always caught me because they were very much homages to a lot of Britpop stuff. Like there's an homage to Pulp, Blur. There's Elastica. So yeah, absolutely. I guess breakdown. I still have to read Hickman's X-Men run. You guys are on me about. I'm busy, you people. Yeah, but I love the covers.
Yeah,
This is something that I don't think will ever be adapted for movies or TV because the music licensing would be insane,
right, right.
So obviously they wrote it for the love of the medium, so they didn't write it with an eye to getting a studio deal, unless they know a music supervisor that works on the cheap. Richard, you picked one for me. I kind of picked this for you, sort of, maybe. It's Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch #2. While the first professionally published art by John Byrne was a backup featured in Giant Size Dracula #5, this comic book, Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch, issue 2, is the first comic book to feature all John Byrne art in all the stories. For those of you who are under the age of 45, Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon from the mid-70s that featured cars and motorcycles that could talk. Hey, Disney, you ripped us off for cars. Uh, Except for the star, Wheelie, for some reason. Wheelie, remember he could only communicate by showing words flashed on his windscreen?
Yeah.
It's like you've got Goofy and Donald Duck and Pluto walking around having conversations. Meanwhile, Pluto is like, "Woo, woo."
uh,
The logic here. Mid-grade raws of Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch #2 sell for around 15 and 20 bucks on eBay. Strangely, there is no GPA data for slabs on this, so does no one give a crap?
that's interesting. I mean, you would think, Burn fans would buy a copy of this, because if you're collecting all Burns, this is something that you want to have. But uh,
It's
you
an
know,
oddball.
I remember wheeling the Chopper Bunch from back in the day vaguely. It's not, it was no grape ape. It definitely wasn't. I don't think one of the ones that holds a lot of nostalgia. So I'm not overly surprised that people don't flock to this book as opposed to other books like Josie and the Pussycats and there's a ton of 70s comics, cartoons that were made into comics that I think are more popular. But still, this brings back memories, and the tie-in with Byrne is awesome. If I come across this, I'll pick a copy up.
Who would win in a road race to the death? Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch or the CB Bears? I'm guessing the CB Bears, they're in semis.
Yeah, I think that kind of yeah, I think mass wins out.
Do we need to just cover the Hair Bear Bunch in a future episode or Hong Kong Phooey,
Oh man. My
Great Baby, or Magilla Gorilla? Try him, buy him, take him home and try him. Oh, lyrics. Magilla Gorilla for sale. Hey, everybody, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Runs and Modern Gods. If you want to see Doll Man bend over this week, we'll have images of that. Uh, hit like, hit subscribe.
when John will open his own comic art OnlyFans channel.
Hey, I am all about multiple revenue streams. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Everybody, stay safe.